So this is going to be the review video, sample test video for advanced math for the unit circle for Radians. Okay, this is a new video for 2018. I want to go through, just like I did last time, if you watched the degrees video, and just talk about some things in general. And you've gone over this in class, but I want to put this up because I'm going to be referencing this. All right, so you want to draw this page out. The idea here, okay, we had a 30-degree triangle that was this. We had a 45-degree triangle, which was this. We had a 60-degree triangle. Okay, it was this. Now, when you convert that to pi, this will be pi over 6. This will be pi over 4. This will be pi over 3. Okay? So the radian measures will link back to this. Okay? Now, same thing as last time. Quad 1. This is 0, 360. We're going to add the concept of 2 pi. All right? X and Y. Positive, positive. Okay? This one goes to 0. This will be 90 degrees. This will be pi over 2. Okay? This will be 180, which will be pi. This will be quad 2. Okay? Once again, X and Y. Negative and positive. This is quad 3. Also going to 180. Okay? X and Y. Negative and negative. This is 270 or 3 pi over 2. Okay, this will be quad 4 that will go to 360, and this one will be positive and negative for X and Y. So you want to make sure you have that written down, so that you can all see it. Now, when we look at radian measures, this is something to keep in mind to figure out quads 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you've got pi over your number, that is going to be in quad 1. These two quadrants, this will be less than 1. Okay, all right, 1 digit away, 1 digit apart. Okay, so for example, 5/6 pi is less than 1. 5 and 6 are 1 digit apart. This will be more than 1. Okay, 1 digit away. Okay. All right, so for example, 4 over 3 pi. Okay, more than 1, more than that. This will be like, an example would be 5/3 pi, more than 2 away, more than 1 away. Okay, as you can see, that's how you figure out what quadrant you're in. So make sure you write that down. That's going to become imperative because as I go through this, I'm going to go through this pretty quick from that standpoint. Okay, all right. So 3 pi over 2. All right, that's going to end up being at one of the axis points. Okay, so we reference this as H, X, and Y. Okay, we've done this, we did this last chapter. The H will always be 1. If I label a point here, the X would be 0 and the Y would be 1. Sine would be O over H or Y over H. So that's 1 over 1. I'm sorry, that's in the wrong spot. Hold on. All right, 3 pi over 2. Apologize for that. 3 pi over 2 is down here. I'm sorry. 3 pi over 2 is here. H would be 1, X would still be 0, Y would be negative 1. Okay, opposite over hypotenuse, or Y over the hypotenuse, which would be negative 1 over 1, which would give me negative 1 for that. 2 pi, all right, would also be at one of those axis points, which would be right here. Okay, your H would be 1, your X would be 1, Y would be 0. Cosine is A over H, or X over H, so that's 1 over 1, which would just give me 1. Now here's the pi over 2. Pi over 2, okay, pi over 2 would be here. All right, so that would be the H would be 1, X would be 0, Y would be 1. Okay, cotangent. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite or X over Y. So 0 over 1, which would be 0. Okay, cosecant of pi, that is going to be over here. So the h would be 1, x would be -1, y would be 0. Cosecant is h over o, or h over y, so 1 over 0, which would be undefined. Okay? Alright, so those are the ones, as you notice, when you go back to this, here's how you tell those are at the axis points. They don't have a 6, a 4, or a 3. That means they have to be at the axis points. Alright? Let's go back and take a look at these now. Okay? 7 pi over 6, what that's going to be is that's going to be the 30-degree triangle. Alright? Alright, just want to make sure you can see that. Yep, you're good. Now, since this is 7/6 is bigger than 1, and they're 1 away, this would be in quad 3. So both of these would be negative. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. And we've gone over this last time. Negative and negative will turn to positive, and this will end up being square root of 3 over 3. If you need to do the math there, you want to see it real quick, you would multiply by square root of 3 over square root of 3. That's square root of 3 over square root of 9. That turns into that. This, the 4, that means that's a 45-degree triangle. Alright? It's a 45-degree triangle. Since that's less than 1 digit away, this would be quad 2. So the x will be negative in quad 2. The sign will be opposite over hypotenuse, so square root of 2 over 2. Cosecant 3, that's going to be the 60-degree triangle. Alright? Now, 5/3, as you can see, alright, that's more than 1 apart. So this will be quad 4, which this will be negative in quad 4. Secant is h over a, which will be 2 over 1, which will be 2. Okay, same triangle because it's 2/3. Alright, so I don't even need to have to really change anything there. Alright, 2 for the hypotenuse, 1 for the adjacent, which will be x. We talked about this already, this right here. So this is less than 1 digit away, so this would be quad 2. The x will be negative in quad 2. Okay, so my cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be negative 1/2. Okay, 7 over 4. All right, same thing. The only thing you might have to be careful of is when you get into these bigger numbers is to make sure that this number doesn't go into here more than 2. Because if it goes in more than twice, you have to subtract 2 pi, which we'll get to in a little bit. Okay, now this one will be the 45, whoa, oops. This will be the 45-degree triangle. Okay, since it's more than 1 away, this is going to end up being quad 4, which would make this y negative. Okay, so what I got is tangent would be negative square root of 2 over square root of 2, which that will end up being negative 1. Cotangent, that's going to be a 60-degree. Okay, that would be a 60-degree one. Okay, 4/3, bigger than 1, and 1 digit apart, so that's going to be quad 3, which would make both of these negative. Okay, so that's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Now once again, adjacent over opposite, negative over negative will be a positive, and that's going to become square root of 3 over 3. We did the math already there for you. Cosine, 11 over 6. I got to check. 6 only goes into that 1 time. It's a little less than 2, so we're still good. 6 will produce a 30-degree angle. All right. Now, since it's more than 1 digit apart, that's going to mean quad 4. So it means the y will be negative. Cosine would be square root of 3 over 2. Okay? Tangent. Now, if you notice here, 6 would go into 13 twice. That means I'm going to have to take the 13 over 6 and subtract by what would be 2 pi, but I'm going to leave the pi's out. So what's going to happen is I'm going to multiply by 6 top and bottom. So it's going to be 13 over 6 minus 12 over 6, which ends up being 1 over 6 pi. Another way of writing that is pi over 6. So this is what I'm really working with. So that's actually real easy. That's going to be a 30-degree angle. So y adjacent and x, 2 in the hypotenuse. Since it's pi over 6, this is going to be quad 1, so everything will be positive. Tangent will be 1 over the square root of 3, which we've already discussed, will turn into square root of 3 over 3. Okay, let me take out that circle there. Okay, all right, moving on to 13. Once again, as you can see, 4 would go into 11 at least twice. So that means that I got to subtract a 2 over 1. So I'm going to get a common denominator, which would be 11/4 minus 8/4, which would be 3/4 pi. So that is what I'm going to work with. And I already know that since that's a little less than 1 and they're 1 digit away, that's going to be in quad 2, which I'll get to in a little bit. 45 degrees because of that 4. All right? Since I'm in quad 2, the x will be negative. Sine will be opposite over hypotenuse, so square root of 2 over 2. Once again, this one goes in more than twice. So I'm going to have to take 10/3 and subtract by 2 over 1, which I'm going to do times 3, so that's 10/3 minus 6/3, which will be 4/3 pi. This will be a quad 3, because it's bigger than 1 and 1 digit away. Since it's got the 3, I know 60-degree triangle. Okay? Now, if it's in quad 3, both of these will be negative. So the hypotenuse 2 over -1, which will be -2. Okay? Now, as you can see here, these are negative. Okay? So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to add now 2 over 1. So I do the common denominator the same way. That's -7 over 4 plus 8 over 4, which would be 1 over 4 or pi over 4. Pi over 4 would be in quad 1, because it's one of those ones that's like that. Once again, 45-degree triangle, opposite in y, adjacent with x. All right, since it's in quad 1, everything's positive. Cosecant would be 2 over the square root of 2, which will turn into just square root of 2. All right? I'll briefly show the math and then I'll erase it here. If you want to see how that is, you would have to multiply by square root of 2 top and bottom, which is 2 square root of 2 over the square root of 4, 2 square root of 2 over 2, okay? And those cancel out. That's how you get that, okay? So from that perspective, that's how you end up getting that math if you want to see it. Whoa, that's not what I want to do at all. All right, let's just erase this. Okay, let's go to this next one here. -5/6. I'm going to add 2 over 1. All right, so I multiply by 6 and 6, which is -5 over 6 plus 12 over 6, which is 7 over 6 pi. Once again, that's bigger than 1, 1 digit away. That's going to be quad 3. Okay, since it's 6, it will be a 30-degree angle. All right. Opposite in y, that would be 1, adjacent, and x would be square root of 3, 2 for the hypotenuse. Okay, since it's in quad 3, both of these will be negative. Okay, cotangent, adjacent over opposite, so that's going to be negative square root of 3 over -1, which will just turn into square root of 3. Okay? All right, 3 pi, that's too big. So what I want to do very simply is 3 minus 2, which will be 1 pi. So what I'm finding is cosine of 1 pi, which that will be on one of the axis points clearly because it's not, all right? Okay, so what I have here is I'm going to have an h, which is 1. X would be -1. y would be 0. Okay, so cosine is a over h, or x over h. So that's negative 1 over 1, which would be negative 1. That is on an axis. Okay, this is also on an axis because it's over 2. But what I'm going to have to do with that is I'm going to have to take negative 3 over 2, and I'm going to have to add 2 over 1, okay, because I need a common denominator, times 2 times 2. So negative 3 over 2 plus 4 over 2. That would be 1/2, okay, pi. Okay, if you go back to that picture, 1/2 pi is located right here. Okay, so what I have is a combination of h, x, and y. H will always be 1, x will be 0 at that point, y will be 1. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, or y over x, which would be 1 over 0, which would be undefined. Okay? Alright, so a lot of that stuff that we learned in the previous unit comes back in play. Alright? Doing pretty good here. Alright, let's go on to this back page. Okay? So now we're going to find all of these here. Okay? We're going to find all of these. So it's just a continuation. Alright, 4, that means I automatically know that's a 45. Opposite with y, which will be square root of 2. Adjacent with x, which will be square root of 2. Adjacent x will be square root of 2. This would be 2 hypotenuse. Now, since it's greater than 1 and 1 away, this would both be negative. Okay? Those would both be negative. So sine, opposite over hypotenuse, square root of 2 over 2. Cosine, also negative square root of 2 over 2. Tangent is negative square root of 2 over negative square root of 2. And we have to know that that turns into 1. Cosecant will be 2 over negative square root of 2. And we know that that will turn into negative square root of 2. We went through the math earlier on that. Same thing for this one. Would also be the negative square root of 2. Negative square root of 2 over negative square root of 2 is still 1. Okay? Alright, 2/3. Okay, we'll do that triangle here. 2/3. We'll create a 60-degree triangle. Okay? 2/3 is less than 1 digit away, so that's quad 2. This will be negative. Alright, sine, square root of 3 over 2. Cosine, negative 1/2. Tangent, square root of 3 over negative 1, which would be negative square root of 3. Cosecant, 2 over the square root of 3, which that would be 2 square root of 3 over 3. Okay, can't have any these left in the denominator, radicals. Okay, this would be negative 2 over 1, which would be negative 2. Okay, cotangent would be negative 1 over the square root of 3, which would be negative square root of 3 over 3. We did that math earlier. Okay, 2 pi, very simple, is 2 pi is at one of the axis points. So we got h would be 1, x would be 1, y would be 0. Okay? So, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, or y over hypotenuse. 0 over 1, 0. Okay? Cosine is a over h, or x over h. That's 1 over 1, which would be 1. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, or y over x. That's going to be 0 over 1, which would be 0. Alright, if you want a shortcut here, 0 is going to turn into undefineds. 1 stays 1. But if you want to see this, this is h over o, okay, or y, or h over y, which is 1 over 0, which we know is undefined. Alright, h over a, or h over x, is 1 over 1, which would be 1. And then cotangent would be a over o, or x over y, 1 over 0, which is undefined. Okay? Now, negative 7 pi over 6. Alright, I got to add 2 to that. So that's going to be negative 7 pi over 6 plus 4 over 6. Okay? Oh, not 6, I'm sorry. Hold on. That's not right. I rushed through that. I want to multiply by 6. So that would be 12 over 6. So that's going to be 5/6 pi. Okay? Which I think is the same one, isn't it? No, it's not. I thought 5/4. Okay, so 5/6 pi means that that will be a 30-degree triangle. Adjacent x, 2, the hypotenuse. Now, 5/6, that's going to be quad 2. 1 digit away, less than 1. That's going to be, this will be negative. Okay, so sine will be 1/2, cosine will be -3/2. Tangent will be 1 over negative square root of 3, which will turn into negative square root of 3/3. This will be 2 over 1. This will be 2 over negative square root of 3, which is -2 square root of 3/3. Okay, this will be negative square root of 3/1, which will be negative square root of 3. Make sure you label the negatives. Okay? Now, this next part, okay, is going to be all calculator. So what you had to do in that first set is you would do that with all no calculator. Notice you didn't see me hitting any buttons. Okay, now, here you can use the calculator. I'm going to make sure my calculator is set in degree mode. Let me go back. Hold on. Shift menu, let me go down. Yep, I'm in degree. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take the inverse sine, square root of 2 over 2. Okay, that's going to give me my first angle. Now, use your fraction button. You see fractions, use fractions. Okay, now, that would be square root of 2 divided by 2. All right. So the first angle that works is 45. Now, what that means for me, okay, is that 45 would be right here, okay? And what I want to do is I want to get the reference angle for every single one of these. So this would be 45, okay? All right, now what I would do here, these will all be 45s. Now, good rule of thumb, to get these two, all you got to do, 180 plus, okay, 180 minus, and then put them in the appropriate locations. 135, 225. To get this location, just reference that triangle, 360 minus 45. That's 315. Now, this one already works. All right, now what you want to do is you want to type in the remaining ones, and what your goal is you want to get whatever the sine is. That's the key part. Sine. All of these numbers are going to be the same. My sine was positive. So I knew 45 worked already. So I got to find the other positive one. All right? Sine of 135. That's positive. That's going to be my other one. So that was positive. Okay? And as you can see, sine of 225. Yours turns into radicals, unlike mine. Okay? That's negative. Okay? Sine of 315. That's also going to be negative. So the thing you wanted were the two positives, which would be there. Okay? So this I'd start out with inverse cosine. Okay? Inverse cosine. Okay? First angle that works is 150. Okay? So what I'm going to look at is 150 would be here. Okay? I would compare this to 180. Okay, which would make this a 30-degree triangle. So I'm going to do 30s, 30s, 30s. This one's easy, automatically 30. This one I would subtract from 360, which would give me 330. Now, once again, that area, 180 plus 30, 180 minus 30. I already got 210, I already got 150. This is going to be 210 over here. Okay, so I know 150 worked from the start. Okay, so all I got to do is I type in cosine of 30, cosine of 210, cosine of 330. So you type in all the ones that you didn't type in so far. Okay, and you look at the signs. Cosine of 30 plus cosine of 210, negative, cosine of 330, positive. So this is positive, negative, positive. Now if you look at my problem, I got a negative, so the other one that's got to join this is 210. Okay? Now, going on to secant. Now, what you should do is you should write this as cosine. So basically what you do is you type into the calculator, you type that in. Okay? Mine won't do this for me, but if you type that in, what you're going to get is you're going to get square root of 2 over 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into cosine. So cosine of theta equals square root of 2 over 2. So put this in the calculator, then do this, then do the inverse. Okay? Then you do the inverse of square root of 2 over 2. And then it's almost like you forget about the secant. Okay? Because all you got to do is turn that around. Okay? So square root of 2 over 2 is going to be 45. Okay? Now, I think ironic, no, it's not that quite, not that obvious. Okay, so 45, it's the same triangles as this one, so just to save some time, all of these inside the bow tie are 45. Okay, this is 315, this is 225, this is 135. Just how we got those other ones. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to, in the interest of space, let me just type them out here. I'm going to type in cosine. I already got 45. 135 is negative. Cosine 225 is negative. Cosine of 315 is positive. And you see I have a positive result. So 315 will go right there. Okay? All right? Moving on here. Okay? I think I got about 6 problems to go. Okay? Cotangent. So what I want to do is I want to turn that into, that would be normally negative 1 over 1. But I'm going to turn that into 1 over negative 1. So what I got is tangent of theta, and if I reduce that, it's going to be very simple as that. So then I'm just going to do tan inverse of negative 1. Okay, inverse tan, negative 1, and that's negative 45. Now, I don't like that negative angle, so I would add 360. So the first angle that works here is 315. All right, so I know 315 works. I would compare that to 360, which would make these 45. All right, all 45s. All right, same thing. This is 225, 135, 45. Now, I already got this one to work. So what I want to do is I want to type in tan of 45. That becomes a positive. I'm looking for a negative. Tan of 135, I got my negative. So that's going to be 135. And if you type in the tan of 225, you'll see that it's positive. Okay? Cosecant. So what I want to do is I want to turn this into sine. Alright? But negative 2 over 1 would be 1 over negative 2. Okay? 1 over negative 2. So I'm going to do inverse 1 over negative 2. That's negative 30. Once again, I don't like that. So I'm going to add 360, which makes that 330 is the first angle that works. Okay? And if I subtract that from 360, I get this is 30. That means this is 30, which that's automatically 30. That's easy. 30 and 30. Once again, to get this area, 180 plus 30, 180 minus 30. 150 and 210, so I'll put those in the appropriate places. All right, now, what I want to try, in this case, my answer was negative, so I want to find the other negative. Sine of 30, positive. Sine of 150, positive. Sine of 210, negative. So the other one that worked here, besides 330, okay, it was 330 and 210 were the ones that worked. Okay? All right, these are the exact same idea. Okay? What I want to do is I want to do inverse sine of 0.325. Okay? And let's see what that's at. Okay? I'm going to round up and I'm going to say that's 19 degrees. So the first one that worked here was 19. Okay, so 19 would be here, which would mean this would have to be 19. And then in the bow tie, they're all 19. Okay, now, this one, I would subtract from 360. So that's going to end up being 341. This one, I would add 19, which would be 199. Subtract 19, which would be 161. Now, just in the same premise, I'm trying to find the one that's positive. Okay, so I'm going to type in, I already know sine of 19 works. Sine of 161, that's positive. So that's the other one that works. Okay? And if you want to test the other ones, sine of 199, as you can see, is negative. Sine of 341 is negative. All right? Moving on, last three problems. Cosine, so I'm going to do inverse cosine. Negative 0.645. Once again, I'll be looking for all the negative ratios. Okay, so that's going to be about 130 degrees. All right, so where's 130? Well, 130 would be here. All right, 130 works. Okay, now, in order to find this one, I'd compare that to that, it would be 50. Okay, so that means they're all 50 going across. All right, this one's easy to figure out. It's 50 and 50. Okay, this one will be 360 minus 50, which would be 310. This one, if you're confused, do I add or subtract? Just, don't outthink yourself here. You already got the 130. The one you don't have is 230. Okay? Now, what I would do is you type in cosine of 50. That's positive. I want the negative version. Cosine of 130 I already have. Cosine of 230, that's your negative. Cosine of 310, that's positive. So this is the other one that works. The other one works is 230. Okay? All right, last two questions. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to do this over 1. Okay, so I'm going to figure out what that is. Okay, so I got cosine of negative 0.228, or 288, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's about 107. 107 would be over here. I would subtract from 380, oh, I'm sorry, subtract from 180, be 73. These are all 73. This one's easy, it's automatically 73. This one you subtract from 360 would be 287. Okay? This one you would add that would be 253. Now, all I want to do is I want to find the negative. Okay? So I already know that 107 worked.